Private creditors own almost 40% of Sri Lanka's external debt stock, mostly in the form of international sovereign bonds, although the higher interest rates levied on the bonds mean they receive more than 50% of external debt payments. Such lenders charged a premium to lend to Sri Lanka to cover their risks, which accrued them massive profits and contributed to Sri Lanka's first ever default in April 2022.
The 182 economists and experts have said that Sri Lanka needs significant debt cancellation from all its external creditors. So that includes other governments like Japan and China and multilateral lenders, but also these private lenders. And the largest amount of Sri Lanka's debt is owed to the private lenders. So of debt payments that are coming that were due to be made, 50% are to private lenders compared to 15% to China. So the experts are saying all of these creditors need to share in cancelling Sri Lanka's debt so that it is sustainable. The private lenders lent a high interest rate because they said that the loans were risky. They lent, in the words of the experts, to corrupt politicians, and so they now need to take responsibility for the failure of their lending, and that means agreeing to cancel debt.
Head of Policy of Debt Justice also spoke about what the Sri Lankan government could do regarding the situation.
So the Sri Lankan government has stopped paying them, and that is the number one thing they can do to put pressure on them, because the reason they will ultimately agree to cancel the debt is because otherwise they don't get paid anything. It can stay strong in the negotiations with the creditors and say, if you don't accept the amount of cancellation that is needed, then we will continue not to pay them. But it's also up to the international community to help Sri Lanka out. So the other creditors, like the other governments, the multilateral lenders, need to also agree to cancel debts, but then they also need to support Sri Lanka to put pressure on the private creditors. So, for example, debt to private creditors is governed by New York law, and New York has been discussing legislation which could make creditors take part in debt cancellation. And so there are other people elsewhere in the world who could help get the deal that is needed, get the debt cancelled as needed, so that Sri Lanka can recover from this crisis.